everybody. I hope that you're all doing well. I am using the Golden Art Nouveau tarot deck for this reading. We're starting off with the Empress. And King of Cups. Next we have Temperance. I get the sense of you working through something on the emotional front that could possibly include another person or other people, and you figuring out how to show up in the best way possible, in a way that you like how you're doing this and in a way that feels good to you and feels empowering to you overall. But it may not be so simple. This can be maybe navigating a situation where you're learning how to do this. It can be maybe taking a step in the wrong direction to be like, that's not the way that I want to be doing this, but it's showing me which way I do want to be doing this. It's kind of like that. Like figuring out how to navigate kind of without a map almost, or like a map that becomes, it's like a hot and cold of like, I step in this direction, it feels cold, I need to take a step back and kind of pivot here and then move forward. If that's hot, I'll keep going in that direction. It's like this way of moving through things. So it can be figuring out, there can be stuff about boundaries coming up where it can be like, how can I be compassionate and how can I hold space while not betraying myself? How do I be empathetic but not enmeshed? So this is something that you can be figuring out how to do, because with the King of Cups, I get the feeling of like, I want to be here and I want to be doing this and I want to be showing up, but I don't want to cross a line that I'm not okay with, and I'm figuring out how to do that. So it can be something where like emotions are involved, or like relationships and bonding emotionally can be involved, or things being somewhat intertwined or connected with one another can be involved, but you can be figuring out how to move through in a way that feels appropriate to you. And that can be something that you're still figuring out how to do, like how to not be distant or cold, how to be present and involved, but how not to overstep and become too involved, how to not become enmeshed in things. I don't know if this is a specific relationship or it's just like that's how I want to be showing up in general within my relationships, but it looks like a situation like that. And for some of you guys, having King of Cups, Three of Pentacles, Temperance, and the Empress, this can possibly be a work situation as well that would involve other people. This can be your personal relationships, but also like some of you guys, you could be like a counselor or a guide, and you can be figuring out how to show up in a professional way and still participate while not like being too involved or like have anything inappropriate going on that feels like boundaries aren't being respected, you know? So how it can be like, I'm learning how to have professional boundaries while also still being present and helpful. That can be something too. But yeah, I feel a lot having to do with other people actually, in like relationship type things. So you can also be figuring out like what feels good to you and what feels right to you. It's kind of like how to cooperate with everyone in the space while not becoming dragged down by the energy or like taking on something that isn't yours to be taking on. Yeah, I do see a King of Pentacles. So whether this be just like in your personal life, wanting to feel like it's professional or it being a work situation. Because maybe there's even a responsibility for you to be here, or something that you have given yourself, like assigned that responsibility to yourself. It's kind of what this feels like. Maybe somebody that expects you to be there. But I think this like ultimately has to do with expectations that you place upon yourself. So you don't feel like you're running away from things that you maybe feel like you should be responsible for. This can be, we have Hierophant, this can be people within your community that you're working with, can be people within your family, can be people within your classroom that you're dealing with. Having Hierophant be connected with Temperance, this can be stuff about your values and how you show up in the world, and figuring out what exactly that looks like for you. Wow, so much stuff going on. So we have Taurus, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Taurus and Scorpio are right next to one another. Sag, I'm seeing, be connected with the Tower. We have Mars and Jupiter right next to one another too. Now that I'm seeing that, this is making me... Let me look at the astrology real quick, because I'm wondering if something is going to be going on with this. Like if... Hold on. Let me think about this. I think Jupiter and Mars might be like trining each other right now, or just did maybe. Where is Mars? We have Mars at 22 degrees and Jupiter at 15, so they are separating from that. But yeah, maybe something was going on with this. It can be. So having these energies connected with one another is about like a system collapse that's happening. So we have Hierophant, Death, Tower, and Wheel of Fortune. This is like a structure that's being broken down. Some of you guys, you can be seeing this in like government type stuff or establishments. It can be like businesses and whatnot. It can be communities that are collapsing, or like religious orders, this type of thing. Education system as well can be something that you see. So having this be happening, having Hierophant and having Death is about like changes that are happening that will be like systemic changes that are taking place, where Hierophant can represent the old, it's like the old country and the old system and the old way of doing things, and Death is about what is no longer useful anymore, what needs to be eliminated, what needs to change in order to allow progression to happen. Tower is going to be the collapse and the weeding out of these things, where stuff is actually going on and taking place, where these like aspects of the system and the old way that it worked are collapsing and being renovated. And then the growth that can happen after the collapse that takes place. Now, if this is happening more on a micro scale, like personally for you, it can mean that before certain systems were in place and certain beliefs were in place, having Death can be how those systems and beliefs are evolving. So much so they don't maybe look even familiar to the way that they looked like before. Then Tower is going to be seeing like the difference of how much stuff has actually changed, and how it can be an entirely new thing that's developing again, to the point where it can look unfamiliar to what we were seeing before. And then having Jupiter is going to be when it goes through a growth spurt. So you have the system being broken down. the Tower is going to be the destruction and the breaking down of things. And then Jupiter is going to be the building back up or the growing then. So it's kind of like, it's like when you have a plant and there are these dead ends on it, and maybe allowing them, maybe rather than allowing them to fall off naturally, is like a pruning that's taking place. So then all of those pieces that aren't growing anyway can be cut off. So the energetic supply gets cut off from those things. So even though the plant then becomes, visually it looks smaller, then all of that energy that was going to those like dead spaces, like this is even feeling like what is it, like branches within the government or something like that, or within like branches within branches within branches that feel obsolete now at this point, that are being cut off. So it can be like funding not going to these places anymore, like closing down programs that are happening. So it's that cutting back to then just having like only those functional pieces left, that the growth potential is there. So that will be the moment when you look at, when Temperance and the Tower is there, feels like the moment when you see just what is left of that and all of those dead pieces being cut off. And then having Three of Pentacles and then having Wheel of Fortune is the growth that now can come from that. So if this is a personal thing, for you it can feel like life as you knew it before in some sense has been being broken down. Has to do with your beliefs, can have to do with your relationships, can have to do with your finances too. Can have to do with resources. A change that happens a lot on the emotional and psychological front. The collapse and the shifting taking place. We have Venus and we have Mars looking at one another. Venus and Mars are complementary energies, and both of these are about setting the stage, creating the space so that things can function better together. Both of these, even though they have different ways of going about it, Mars and Venus both want to create harmony. Like that is what they're trying to produce at the end of the day. Even though they have very different ways of going about it, both of them have that same function of trying to produce that. And so maybe even like the way that you show up and how you see your role within all of this is something that can be changing. Maybe with the Hierophant, it can be like, I've been playing this part and playing this role exactly like this for a very long time. And this is how things have been. And because of having King of Cups, I wonder if it's like on the emotional front, this is how things have been and this is how I've related. But now I'm going through this inner collapse that's taking place that maybe makes me question everything having to do with this. And then it's like, how do I work with this type of energy that is asking for a change, maybe a very uncomfortable change, but one that is necessary? Hierophant and King of Cups are both fixed energies. These are energies that they don't really like to change and aren't going to unless they absolutely have to. And sometimes even then are still going to be kind of refusing. So this can be something where it's like these things that maybe I never thought were going to change or wasn't anticipating or like hoped could stay the same together even if it wasn't as optimal anymore. They're now being affected by this thing that's going on. So if this thing is going on, whether it's my choice or not, how do I get with the program here? So that feels like Tower and Three of Pentacles, like how do I work with this energy? How do I collaborate with this energy? But Mars can be kind of aggressive in the way that it happens, and so it can be trying to collaborate with an energy that may not always be so collaborative. And maybe that's your experience where you feel like this change is taking place and you don't really have a 50-50 situation that you're in. maybe the situation that you're in is making 70% of the choices that are happening, and you're only covering 30%. And so you don't have maybe as much of a say in what's going on, but you are still involved in this. And so you still have to try to find a way to work within it. And so how can you do that, and what does that look like? And this may also change the way that you show up within your relationships too. And you can be at a spot where like, I'm trying to be malleable and learn from this. But we have a lot of energies that can be stuck in their ways. Taurus, fixed energy. King of Cups, fixed energy. Scorpio, fixed energy, which is connected with King of Cups anyway. And then we also have King of Pentacles, fixed energy. King of Pentacles is represented by Taurus. We also have the Hierophant, which is connected with Taurus. King of Cups is connected with Scorpio. We also have Death, which is connected with Scorpio. We have Venus and we have Mars, but then we also have the sign of Sagittarius and we have Jupiter. These are mutable energies. Mutable is that changeable and adaptable. So it's about Mars coming through and saying changes need to happen. I don't think that this is going to happen overnight though, because we have Temperance above the Tower. So these can be changes that are happening over time, but end up having a very big effect and making a very big difference. And the way that you were working with the energy before is changing and you are growing. This can mean like your emotional intelligence is increasing. Your understanding of things and the way that they work can be increasing. Your ability to perceive what's going on and the truth of that can be changing. So I see a lot of emotional growth that can be taking place. You can see this as soul growth that is taking place. And you can be learning in a situation like this that can be maybe unpredictable and chaotic. I'm learning how to show up in the best way possible. So it can be something where you're figuring out how to roll with the punches, but they can be hard and fast punches that are taking place with Mars, and it can be an energy that's hard to work with. And so it can be something where it's taking time to be as flexible maybe as this process requires. Seeing Hierophant and Temperance and Three of Swords feels like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. The Hierophant is the old dog, and then having Temperance and having Page of Swords, these are like the new tricks that need to be understood, that need to be embraced, so that they can be integrated into an already established system, which isn't as effective anymore. And that's why these changes need to be taking place. So whatever type of structure this is, whether it be work, a group you're involved with, your family, a network of friendships, your government, these types of things, whatever it might be, there is a structure that is changing. And this can be in many different layers. Maybe you see something going on within your personal life and you also see that echoed in something more macro that's taking place right now. But changes are definitely afoot, and I see these be good ones that are taking place that are going to allow for things to be more functional at the end of the day, but that it can be difficult to go through this process because things can be looking very different. And for people that are channeling an energy of difficulty with change, this can be more of a struggle. But yeah, the more open-minded and the more flexible you are moving through this, the easier it's going to be to understand the new place, new energy, and new role that you're going to be playing within all of this. It's going to help you establish that more quickly. I think also having Venus and having Death, it can mean that maybe you got very good at the way that things were moving before, or it became very second nature to you, and now the the energy that's going to be required of you is going to be something different, and you have to figure out what that looks like. So it can be before, when I was standing here and I was doing this, I already knew what was expected of me. I was good with showing up. I could do that. Now it feels like something different is being asked of you, and you can be figuring out, what does that look like now? How do I wear that outfit? And this is something that it's over time going to develop. It's kind of like a new job that you are standing within, but it's in a period of development. And yeah, some of you guys, this like actually has to do with work, and you could have felt like the way that things were before and what was needed from me when I showed up at work, I knew what to do. It was a breeze. Maybe you were even like bored with it, you know? Or maybe you were just like, I really liked it. It was really easy and I didn't even have to think about it anymore. I was just so used to it. I was so familiar. But this feels like something within you actually needed this change. Even if another part of you is like, oh, this is so uncomfortable right now. Like all of the things that are changing, and like I have to adapt, and now my conscious energy has to go into this. Because before, when it was just like I already knew the deal, I didn't really have to think too hard. It was just like punch in, punch out, whatever, like very routine for the most part. Now it's changing in a big way. And again, like I see this be a more like this is happening over a longer period of time, an extended period of time. This doesn't feel like one change happens and then that's that. I see something that's like a lot more drawn out. And I see there being a new system that is developing. So as I said before, you had the system that was established, then hearing about changes that are going to be taking place, the actual period of many changes taking place, which is that like cutting back to only what we need for the plant to like be as promising as possible, which feels like the very middle of the cycle. And then as that's happening, and everything kind of bleeds into the next. It's not like this phase, this phase, this phase. They kind of overlap with one another. That middle phase is the cutting back. The next phase that it bleeds into is, okay, from what is left standing, how are we optimizing growth? And then that's when the expansion starts happening. So there was like a contracting, and now there's an expanding, and now you can be figuring out the new things that are being expected of you. And this can be something that's changing all the time and growing all the time and evolving. That's the word, evolving all the time. So you're working with the changes actively that are happening and the new system that is being developed, which is so different. This is like a very, very, very different system. Even if you can be involved in the same so-called system under the same like company or whatever, I see it be so different that it like your job today looks so different than a year ago, what it was looking like. It's like that type of thing where even though you can be involved technically, it's like the same plant and those same roots, but because of the way that it's been pruned, it looks entirely different. And now it has new types of growth as well. So because the growth is happening, and some of the growth can be unpredictable, where it's like maybe this branch grows really fast and this one goes really slow. You kind of have to see what's happening with it. And then that impacts what you're doing and what's expected of you. So you can just kind of be watching what's happening, and then you have to observe what's happening, and then you have to respond to that. And that has to do with like your job and what's being expected of you. But overall, I see this be something that is going to make things a lot better. We're ending with the 9 of Pentacles. So I'd say that this is actually a really promising process that you're going through, even though it can be hard. But I'm wondering with Temperance and Tower, if you're like now like at the peak of it, and then it's just gonna be kind of a little bit of a different shift that's taking place where it's going to be about growth now, and that's where the focus is heading. But yeah, I see that whatever you're doing is, it looks different. Like you can be learning new stuff. stuff that you weren't doing before, things that change kind of the job description. But it can be, again, it feels like unpredictable the way that this is happening, where it doesn't feel like there's necessarily an itinerary, and it's because of how touch and go this process is. So there's like not certain information for you to have until that information is there. So I see something that's been hard to predict, so it can be something where it's hard to feel prepared, and so you just have to be adaptive. You have to be adaptable. I see this be a good thing for you because it's helping you to grow and to learn. But yeah, it can be something where it can take a little bit of a toll, and you can feel like you're stretched thin by this. And it can be something that feels uncomfortable maybe a lot of the time. But as I said before, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks, and that's what's happening with this, and that is good for you. And I see also something that's expanding your skill set and your abilities too, so I feel like it's good for that purpose as well. I get the feeling too, like you could be being prepared for something that's going to come after this where you're going to need those skills. And I don't want to get too far into that, but this is something that's coming through about all of this, but I'm not seeing that be anything that you would be seeing right now. All right, with that being said, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everybody for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.